I mean, you're one of the local companies, local contractors. You're just doing your thing, building stuff, but at a steady clip. And then the Bakken comes online, and now everybody needs everything almost overnight.
Yep.
And now you're probably being called everywhere to do everything, and you're growing like crazy. But then that creates a big degree of chaos that I don't think people that have not been in a growing business can't totally appreciate and understand, because everybody's like, well, business is up, you're making more money. It's like, well, yeah, but at what cost? Like there's
you needed to make a lot of money because of all the slippage, all the, money covers up a lot of sins.
Yeah, I've seen in Australia, I just tell everybody about this because I just dream of, they don't really have typical pickup trucks. Like they have the pickup truck, but then the bed comes off. You don't want the bed because you basically build out the back of your truck however you want it. So there's all these aftermarket beds, and you can put whatever you want on the back of your truck. And I know we kind of have that here, but not really. Like the customization there is incredible, and they have these beds with like these really streamlined fuel tanks built into them as well, and all kinds of fun stuff. So you can get additional capacity, or you can get a water tank, for washing your hands, and all kinds of things built into this modified bed that you then put on the back of your truck.
Yep, and I've seen those in your videos. And they're littler pickups, like I don't know what they are, Nissans or Toyotas or something. You don't see the big pickups like we have.
You don't. If you do, someone spent some money. It's like $250,000.
Oh boy,
for a F250. They're way more expensive because you have to get them converted to right-hand drive. So they come in, then they have to convert them, which makes them a lot more because they don't. It's all these like random aftermarket vendors that do it. It's not Ford that does it, which is interesting. But you'll see Rams, you'll see GMCs, you'll see Fords, but somebody spent some money on that. Like there are contractors doing really well.
Well, and then you see like the cat dealers, they got their service trucks. So here we're used to seeing 550s,
big trucks.
550s
on the smaller side too, compared to some of them.
Yeah. And then they got these little pickups. Out running around.
Yeah. Oh, it was the funniest. I remember we were on a coal mine in New South Wales, and it's a Liebherr 9800 they're servicing. So it's an 800-ton excavator, a big excavator. And the guy pulls up in a Hilux, and it has like 2 toolboxes on the back. And he opens up the drawer, and he grabs like a few tools, and he climbs up the 9800 ladder and starts to do a little servicing on it. It's like, what? In the United States, this would be 4 big service trucks, a crane, and he wasn't doing this big PM on it. He was doing some little stuff, but it's just like, this is a way different way to do it.
Yeah.
And the American mind, like,
we
they're
get
just
laughed
like,
at.
Where's the crane? Like, you can't do anything without a crane.
Yeah.
And they're like, no, you can do a lot without a crane. We do it all the time. And then in Europe, they use vans, which is, I think, even sillier.
Yeah, that one I'd have a hard time.
Yeah, they're all Sprinter vans. Well, the big ones are Sprinter vans, but then they have the small, like Volkswagen bus vans as well. But the big Sprinter vans will have like a workbench in them. They'll have like a little workshop built into them, which I actually think is quite slick.
Well, and you just had the post or video where they have the Conxes that they drag around and make workshops.
Yeah, the demolition companies especially, like the big machines. Every big machine has its own Conx with just whatever that machine needs, and it goes wherever that machine goes, and it has like whatever machine number on the Conx, and it has a little workshop. It has your stuff for grease, fluids, whatever. It has whatever spare parts might be needed for the machine. It's amazing. It has the manuals. Everything that machine needs is in that Conx. Cables, straps, anything for lifting, whatever you need. It's super impressive.
Yeah,
super impressive. They're buttoned up. I'm like what you were saying a little bit ago, though. I'm really, the more I see you guys, the more I'm impressed, because like even just a few years ago, I think you might say like you were a more old school North Dakota contractor. Is that a fair assessment?
That's a very fair assessment. Yeah.
And now you're doing all kinds of stuff. Like you're having employee meetings with speakers. You're doing social media, hire somebody full-time for marketing. You just said you're getting a tilt rotator. Like it's everywhere now.
Well, it's been a big part because of exposure and seeing what you've put out there and seeing other things, we get in that where you get blinders, put on. And you kind of do what you did yesterday, today, and tomorrow.
Yeah.
And that's really not our MO. And it wasn't even my dad's MO. My dad was very, progressive.
Mm-hmm. And I think like the construction industry, I feel like has always been progressive. It's just been progressive in different ways. Like it's now just, I feel like companies have to be progressive in a different way now. Mm-hmm. And it's mostly instead of like how we're building jobs, because we kind of have that figured out at this point. I feel like there's not as much innovation in how we're building things or even equipment. Like the machines are kind of the machines nowadays. I feel like it's in technology and people.
Yep, definitely.
Is really where it's taking place right now.
And we've embraced technology. I believe it was 2014. We had a project that required GPS. Mm-hmm. So like we went from nothing to like, I don't remember how many hundreds of thousands of dollars we spent on GPS, and GPS'd up a ton of equipment.
Yeah.
And today you can't not have it.
Sure. It's just standard now. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. I still feel like it's way underutilized because I don't feel like a lot of companies, they have it. So they go out and buy it and they're like, we have GPS. It's like, well, yeah, you have it, but have you trained on it? Do your people know how to use it? Have you like really implemented it? Do you have ongoing training? Because the software is changing constantly. Like it's sure it's a hardware product, but it's a software product as well. Like, are you working it into your business in a deliberate way, or have you just spent a bunch of money at the local Trimble dealer? They've put it on machines. You're like, we're good to go. And I feel like there's contractors that are deliberately training and implementing their GPS to this day that are getting so much more out of it than the contractors that have just bought it for good measure because everybody else has it.
And we bring RDO in.
Yeah.
As a matter of fact, they were just in here a few weeks ago training on our guys and going over stuff. And then when we buy a new piece of equipment, we get the manufacturer to come in and do a walk around with us, because it isn't like years ago where you buy a 140 motor grader and a 140 motor grader is a 140 motor grader.
Sure.
But, every year they change and improve. So then we actually split it up where we have the mechanics spend some time with the manufacturer, and then also the operators spend time with the manufacturer. So everybody's up to speed on it.
Okay, that's good. The mechanics too.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like the operator training I've seen, but I haven't seen as much with the mechanics. But that's quite good. So they know how to wrench on it.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, stuff just changes.
It does. Yeah. Yeah, the engineers don't always tell the mechanics that they're changing some things.
Yep.
No, it's interesting too because I don't know when I was talking to you, but you were saying with turnover, you guys have been a lot better.
Yeah, we dropped our turnover 70% last year.
That's insane.
It's absolutely crazy, but it was a culture change. Being more selective when we're hiring. Make sure we're getting the right people and the right fit. And back to it, it's a lot of credit from stuff that we've learned from you and following you. And if you go back prior to, say, 2006-07, when the Bakken really started taking off, we had a great culture. Sure. But there was only peak season, maybe 50 employees. Mm-hmm. And then things just exploded. And you're hiring people like crazy. And you're hiring people that can pass a drug test. That's about the only requirement.
Yeah.
Get a lot of baggage.
Yeah.
And our culture just started to slip. And we realized that a few years ago, and we sat down and realized, you know what, we got to do something. It might be kind of painful for a little bit, but in the long run, it's gonna really benefit us.
But how'd you realize that?
Morale was in the toilet. Could just see it on the guys. Like they were the foremen and the supervisors.
Sure.
They were exhausted.
Yeah.
And sat down and told the guys, I would just as soon see a scraper parked than have the wrong guy in the seat.
It was that, but I mean, that's a pretty big shift.
Mm-hmm.
Because like before, it's like just get anybody in the seat. We need the scraper moving.
Yep.
Like the scraper sitting is the last thing you want.
Exactly.
But how do you get to that mindset shift though? Like that's
top down.
Yeah.
I mean, Joe's been with me for 35 years.
Sure.
You know, he's been there forever. And he's a general manager of construction. He started out working for my dad as a laborer, pipe crew.
Yeah.
And so he's gone through all of it. He's seen the growth in it. And him and I were just talking one day, and he's like, man, it's not good. You know, we need to change things. It's just not sustainable to keep going like this here. Mm-hmm. So we sat down with a handful of us. I picked guys. There was about 6-8 of us that have been there for a long time and developed our core values. Why are you guys here, and what has kept you guys here this long?
Sure.
We brought in a friend. Are you familiar with Vistage?
Yeah.
Okay. Our Vistage chair. She came in and worked with us to develop our core values and dig down to what makes us us.
Okay. So you brought somebody else in to help you talk through it.
And so it took some time. This isn't like we just Googled something and threw it up on the wall. We met with her probably like once a month for probably 6 months to develop. So it was about a year-long process by the time we were done. And, you know, we don't have like a 3 strikes and you're out kind of a deal. It's case by case. But, you know, we had a deal last year where we had a guy that was drinking pretty heavy.
Yeah.
Brought him in, sat him down, had the critical conversation with him. You know, where in the past, you know, you're going to fire the guy.
Sure.
But get down to what's going on. You know, can we help you? Ended up, unfortunately, after a couple times, we had to let him go. But just doing things like that, not hollering at somebody, sitting down and having a polite conversation. You know, there was some of that old school construction, you know, hard driven, don't tell people the why, yell at them, you know, and that's gone.
But what I think is impressive is you came up that way. Like that's the world you came up in.
Yeah.
And you're not, it's not like you took over for your dad last year.
Yeah.
You know, like it's not the next generation's coming in like, oh, we need to do things differently. Like you've run that's how you came up. You've run everything for a long time. And you still got to a point where it's like, listen, we need to change. But like you said, starts at the top down. And I think it reflects very positively upon you because it requires a lot. It requires you to change a lot. And I feel like there's a lot of guys within this world, they want the company to change, but they don't really want to change. And they're the blocker in the whole thing. Like I've been thinking about this a lot, even with mental health. So everybody's talking about mental health right now in construction. And you see a lot of executives, leaders, I've seen all these kinds of videos where it's not people really in civil construction. It's kind of like other worlds, but it'll be the executive talking. It's like a scripted video talking about how important it is to talk about mental health. And it's like, that's great. I'm all for talking about it, but it's like, it's going to go furthest if you do the work you need to do from a mental health standpoint and then talk about that and model how we should be talking about it with yourself first and foremost. Like that, I think is really what would speak the most volume. Like that's what would really change an organization. If the person, guy, woman, whatever says, hey, I'm just as screwed up as you. I've had my problems. Like you know, at one point, like say I've struggled with alcoholism, but here's how I overcame that. And I'm grateful I did. And here's why my life's better, so on and so forth. Like a story like that, now I'm, especially as a young person within that company, I'm listening. Oh wow, this is huge. But it starts, like I feel like it starts with that. I just don't think you can, whoever's leading the charge, you can't, if they're running, the organization's gonna run. But if they're not in whatever way, they're gonna block everybody else, whether they like it or not. Does that make sense?
Yep. It's about lead by example.
Yeah, which was a very long-winded way of saying lead by example. But everybody says that, it just doesn't happen as often.
Well, mental health is taboo,
Yeah.
and people don't want to, talk about it. So it's tough. It's a struggle.
It's tough.
Yep. And I haven't, myself, like what you just talked about, gone and talked about it, but we've had some really good people come in and talk to our guys.
Sure.
And so we have a monthly safety meeting, and we try to bring in different people to talk about different things instead of us standing up there, slips, trips, and falls.
Yeah.
And I seen a great guy speak at the AGC convention a few years ago, and it was just before Christmas. And I thought, you know what? We need to have somebody come in and talk to our guys about mental health before Christmas, because Christmas isn't a great place for everybody, great time for everybody.
It's a terrible time for a lot of people, yeah.
And so change directions. Like safety meeting was like in 3-4 days. I'm like, all right, scrap your old plans. We're going a whole nother direction. Brought this guy in and talked to our guys. I had somebody come into my office and close the door, and they're like, did you see something? Did you do that because of me?
Huh.
And I go, no. And he goes, I went and talked to somebody. I'm like, good for you. Thanks for sharing that.
Wow.
Found out afterwards, a handful of people had went out and talked to somebody after that. The guy that I saw at the AGC came and talked to us this year over our safety days when we had everybody in.
Mm-hmm.
And Ken Rusk was our keynote.
Yeah.
And we also had this guy come in and talk about mental health. The guys were as impressed with the mental health guy as they were with Ken Rusk.
Who is the mental health guy?
Eric Johnson, Meineke Johnson.
Okay.
They're out of Fargo. So he's a contractor. He's just like us. And he talked about his, experiences with struggling.
Yeah.
And he was no different than the rest of us. He's a contractor. He's not a counselor. And talked about, divorce and, suicidal thoughts and all this here, and where he was at as a teen to where he is at today.
That's huge.
Yep. It was impactful. I mean, he was good.
Well, and this is, and so you have that at your meeting, and then you had Ken Rusk.
Yep.
Which is all about, a lot of it's personal finance,
Mm-hmm.
which is, I would say, tied to mental health in a lot of ways. And people don't always acknowledge that, but that's a huge stressor and a skill set that a lot of people don't have, especially young people,
Mm-hmm.
even when they're making good money, especially in the oil patch.
Yes.
Which I thought was pretty cool too, to bring in somebody like Ken Rusk. I've had him on the podcast.
Yep.
His
And he
message
was
is
on the
phenomenal.
other on your Thursday show here recently.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, we've done a little bit with him. Yeah, but
So that's how I first got to learn about him, was from your podcast.
Okay.
So after that, I went and read his book, and read it a second time, and actually read it a third time before he came and spoke to us.
wow. But that's what I'm trying to illustrate. Like, I think you're a good example of, you read the book 3 times yourself before you have him come in and speak to your company. Like, I'm calling it out because I don't see it all that much, where it's like, again, you could very easily say, listen, we're just going to keep doing business as usual, because you're at that point in your career where it's like, you've just been doing it a certain way for a very long time. Like, let's just keep doing it that way. We're making good enough money. Like, why don't we just keep down this path, which is where a lot of people are. And I would be there too if I were them. If I had been doing something same way for 30 years, I'm just going to keep going down that direction. But I like how you have this curiosity, starting with you, about like, maybe there's a better way we could teach our people about personal finance, for example. And then you go read the book 3 times, and then pay Ken to come in and speak with your group, and pay to have everybody at your company into this meeting in the first place. And then make the meeting not just, well, we have a meeting because we need a meeting, but let's make it valuable. Let's not just talk about slips, trips, and falls. Let's bring in somebody who I've seen, who I know is good, talking about mental health. Let's bring in Ken, who can talk about, like, let's give everybody here value beyond, here's where we are as a company. Like, that's valuable too, but let's leverage this opportunity, because I see a lot of companies, they spend all the money to bring their people together, and then it's like, it's almost a missed opportunity, because it's like, well, you have all your people together, bring somebody in that they're not really expecting. Like they're they're not expecting a message like this when they come in, but then they get it. It's like, and because they weren't expecting it, it's almost even more valuable.
Yep. Yeah. And, of course, you came and spoke last year, and that was the first time that we had a summit.
That was a miss, but.
Yeah. And, we were like, hey, we need to make this an annual thing. So now this year we actually took it to another level because we got guys from all over the country that work for us and they get laid off in the winter. Mm-hmm. We live streamed it.
Wow.
And so then everybody that's there, we cater in lunch. Mm-hmm. So everybody else, we did a voucher for them so that they could order in pizza or whatever it is and sit at home.
Interesting.
And watch the event.
Wow. Okay. If you're looking for another industry event that is a snooze fest, this is definitely not for you. But if you're a leader looking to elevate yourself, your team, looking for like-minded individuals that are hungry, then look no further than the Ariat Dirt World Summit, November 5th through the 7th in Dallas, Texas. In our third year, we'll have about 1,500 hungry industry leaders from about 500 companies looking to learn, grow, teach. It's going to be fantastic. We also have a world-class lineup. We've got Jesse Cole from the Savannah Bananas, James Clear, Atomic Habits, Kim Scott, Radical Candor, Mark Miller, Chick-fil-A Leadership, Tim Grover, who is Michael Jordan's trainer. You will not hear from a lineup like this anywhere else. So check out details now, dirtworld.com. You can use code Aaron10 for 10% off any registrations, and we'll see you November 5th through the 7th in Dallas, Texas. So going back to a few years ago, you start with your core values, mm-hmm. which is a year-long process, which sounds about right. I think it's a hard process. It takes a lot of work.
Yes.
And the more work you put in, the more you get out, I think. I think it's some of the best work I've ever done at the company, but it's a lot of work. How do you work those into the business?
So when we're having a meeting, we start it off and we talk about it. Every month we have, we highlight a value. And so then, for example, every Monday morning we have a superintendent's meeting. Okay. And so then one of our guys starts it off and talks about it, recognition. And so we have people call out people when they've done something. And then at the safety meetings, we have something that we give them and recognize them in front of their peers. The other thing is, so we got a food truck that we take out to the jobs. Uh-huh. And when everybody's gathered around for lunch, we did that a couple times last year. We recognized somebody that went above and beyond, and the success was great. Like these people just glow when you recognize them.
Yeah.
And so now we're really going to push that more this year, than when we come out with the food truck to recognize somebody.
But how do you so your superintendent's meeting, is it partially in person, partially remote, all remote?
Nope. If people are in the office, we all go in the conference room. Okay. Everybody else calls in.
How do you get superintendents to share in the first place?
Well, and it doesn't have to be just the superintendent that recognizes. Anybody can recognize somebody. Okay. But it's just constantly bringing it up.
Yeah.
And back again, it's a top-down thing. And we've gotten great buy-in because back to a few years ago, some of these superintendents were exhausted. And they've seen the benefits of the core values making their jobs easier.
But it starts like in the beginning, maybe you recognizing the a superintendent, for example, for one of the core values, mm-hmm. to kind of get it going.
Yep.
Yeah, that makes sense. It's also, recognition is so much fun. It's really, really cool. Like I still get fooled all the time with construction workers, especially like oil patch or like in North Dakota. I feel like people are just built a little differently, like to put up with winter. They're just like there's a toughness to people in North Dakota.
We're hardy.
Yeah, like construction's tough, mining's tough on its own, but then you go to North Dakota and it's minus 30 with 60-mile-per-hour wind. You're like, all right.
On a nice day.
Yeah. These people are built different, man. And you almost get fooled into thinking like, well, they don't care about recognition, or these are like big tough guys. Like they're, they all have big beards and tattoos and just rough and tumble and grew up in sometimes rough places, and drink a lot of Busch Light or whatever it is, like you almost, you forget that they're people in a way, if that makes sense. Or at least I get like, and I don't say that like, oh yeah, they're just like these construction workers, they're not people. But like, I'm small, like I'm little, I get intimidated by these big guys, but then they'll say something, or you'll do something, or you'll crack a joke or something like that, and or you recognize them in a certain way, and they're playing along too, and you realize like, wait a minute, everybody's a little kid inside.
Yeah.
Like we're all like little 6-year-olds just looking for approval, looking for praise. Like we want to be told we're doing a great job. And that's all you need to do in a lot of ways. Like it's not that hard, but it's quite rare.
Any kind of recognition. So something I've been doing now, the guys are back at work and I've been going out. So went and bought a couple cases of Snickers.
Nice.
And,
great.
I'll stop them, throw them a Snickers and say hello. How's it going?
Yeah.
Just little things like that. That's 30 seconds. And you talked about that before, about that, just that second of recognition and how impactful that is.
Sure. Going back to hiring, how did you get more disciplined with hiring?
Hire slow, fire fast, making sure that they're a good culture fit.
Sure.
And
how do you do that?
Through the interview, asking the right questions. Most of the guys are coming as referrals.
Okay.
So that already is a big filter there.
Is that how it used to be?
Yes.
Yeah.
But it was back when we were hiring anybody.
Sure.
Now guys are seeing the benefits of this here. They don't want to bring somebody on that is not a good fit and put their name on them.
Sure. Okay.
The other thing that we're doing is when we're onboarding, we bring them in on Mondays and go through our core values, go through company history. We take them out for lunch, and I make sure that I'm in the office on Mondays, so I go for lunch with them and get to interact with these guys, so they get to meet me. So it's not the first time out of the job. Oh, it's the boss, and get that nervousness or whatever.
Sure.
So now when I see them, well, we had lunch.
Yeah.
So I think it makes me more approachable.
Yeah, 100%. Oh, that's 100% true. Yeah, that's quite interesting. Have you got pushback through this process over the past few years?
No. Even when I was talking about Joe, who's been with us for like 35 years, he's 60 years old. He has bought into this and embraced it and sees the value of it. And he was that hard-driven, stereotypical construction guy.
Sure. Yeah, and that, again, that's what I find so interesting with what you all are doing. Like you're doing it in a very rough and tumble environment. Like this is this is North Dakota.
Yep.
this is it's the Bakken, right?
Yeah,
it's the Bakken. Like this is rough and tumble. Like this is as traditional. Just get it done. Keep your head down. Let's just make it happen as it gets in a lot of ways, and it still works in an environment like that, which I think is really exciting. Like it's proof it works anywhere. Like
yep.
And not that that's like the hardest. And I say that in a complimentary way, because like I go up to the mines, the Falkirk and Freedom mines, and it's just like they're the nicest people in the world, but they're built different. It just to do the work out there. Like they have stories about their hard hats freezing to their heads. It's like I've never had a hard hat freeze to my head. I don't think I ever will. It's just to me it's crazy, but that to them it's just like that's every day. That's just another winter.
Yep. And so the older guys have really bought into this here, and the younger guys love it.
Sure.
And you talk about the younger guys coming up, that's what they want. And to keep and retain those guys, you got to treat them, with respect.
But I think it's what everybody wants. Like I think the older guys, at face value, don't want it because they didn't come up that way, and they got their asses kicked coming up, and they think everybody should do what they did coming up because they had to endure the abuse in all different ways, and so. That's just fair. Like it's unfair if somebody comes up in a different, like it's a fairness thing. Again, it's going back to like we're on the playground. Well, it's like I had to, eat my vegetables before I got to play on the swing. Like, why does Jimmy just get to go play on the swing? Like, he didn't eat his vegetables. It's like, it's a dumb example, but I feel like that's kind of how it is.
Or they were hazed, or whatever you want to call it. That was just part of it,
Yeah. Yeah. I did my time.
My time. Yeah.
And so everybody should do theirs, but it's like, well, but did you enjoy your time? Like, was that fun? Like, no, it wasn't in a lot of ways. I think there's value to some of it, but a lot of guys, like, they're not sitting around saying those are the fondest years of my life. So it's like, well, maybe there's a different way to do it. And it's exciting to see the older guys come around to this because they win too. Like, if they're not turning people over every week, if there's not new people coming in to fill seats that keep getting empty, like, they can just get more done. They can be more, like, the whole company does better. They can make more money.
It's making their life easier.
Makes their life easier. Yeah, they're the first ones that win. Which
and it goes back to what I was telling you about with the culture, where we had superintendents that were, you could just tell, exhausted.
Yeah.
So they're really seeing the benefit of all of that.
Yeah. I think I made a post the other day. I think the industry is exhausted in a lot of ways for this reason. But I think, like, the industry as a whole just seems beat down, which bums me out because it doesn't have to be that way.
And those that are changing, I look at this as a competitive advantage.
Totally.
In some ways, like, I'm selfish, with all the stuff that, like, you're doing, it's like, I want that all for me, I don't want anybody else to know about it. But eventually it is good for everybody because industry wide, it'll be good.
Yeah. But, like, if your competitor's also doing this and developing their people and recruiting effectively and retaining their people, now they don't have to take your people. Like, it's not like the revolving door in a way. You're not just trading people back and forth.
Oh, we had to grease the hinges on the door.
Yeah. I mean, I know. Yeah. And I'm sure, especially in a place like that, like, there's only so many places you can work. So I'm sure everybody worked everywhere.
Yep.
At a certain point. You guys are at an interesting market too, because you do have the oil field, the oil patch. Before it started to really blow up, when, like 2010, if I had to guess?
Probably around 2007 plus or minus is when it really started to ramp up.
And that was because of fracking.
That was a big part of it. Yeah, they figured out the technology. They knew that the oil was there.
Yeah.
They just didn't figure out how to crack the code. And so they figured out the fracking, and it just took off.
And saying it took off is, I think, an understatement.
Oh, it was absolute chaos.
Yeah. Yeah.
I enjoyed every minute of it. I don't ever need to do it again.
It was like when it's national news how much the local McDonald's is paying. Like, wait, there's something crazy going on here.
Well, and the Bakken was known worldwide.
Yeah.
So the North Dakota Petroleum Council puts out a news clipping every day for yesterday, what was in the papers. And I mean, there was stuff from all over the world, articles in the London Times talking about, Western North Dakota. And it was crazy the amount of people that flooded here. Well, then about that time, then the market crashed.
Yeah.
And we had people from all over the country flooding into Western North Dakota.
Oh, sure, because it aligned. Oh, wow. Yeah, it was just like, that was like the same timing almost.
Yep, it was.
Wow.
When I talk about it being chaos, it was absolutely people living in campers, people living in tents.
Sure.
Housing was so terribly expensive, so hard to find. So then those of us, we ended up getting in the housing business in the sense of putting people up.
Early on we worked with the company KLE. And they told me plenty of stories from, we're in Williston. They're in Montana more so now. But they had plenty of stories from Williston.
The Williston Walmart looked like a campground.
Yeah. Yeah, and they would say, people would drive these fifth wheels in, and then you'd get, especially in winter, like you'd just kind of slide off the road, and then you just leave the fifth wheel, like you just leave, because people are making so much money too that like there was just no rational thought.
Oh, absolutely not. Rent in Western North Dakota was comparable to Manhattan.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
That's crazy. So you're from North Dakota. You've always been there.
Yep.
Family business has always been there. When did the company start? How long ago?
1967.
67.
Yep.
The oil business has always been there, kind of.
So the discovery well was in the 50s when oil was discovered, and it's always been up and down.
Yeah.
So in 1967, Baranko Brothers comes from my dad and my uncle.
Uh-huh.
And so they were ranching, and my grandpa was involved as well. So there just wasn't enough there for three to survive on.
Sure.
So they saw a demand for it. They also needed some work done themselves. So they bought a D7 and a pull-type scraper and started doing dams and dugouts for themselves and for local ranchers. The oil came along, and my dad saw an opportunity there. So in the 70s, started building locations.
Wow.
And then the oil took a downturn. Well, now these counties had money from oil impact, so they started building and improving their roads. So we started doing road work.
Huh.
And then started working the mines and the power plants. So that's kind of the evolution of how that all happened. And then the Bakken came along, and we exploded. Like I said, we had peak construction before that, maybe 50-ish people.
Yeah.
Yeah,
so but you're one of the local companies, local contractors. You're just doing your thing, building stuff, but at a steady clip. And then the Bakken comes online, and now everybody needs everything almost overnight.
Yep.
And now you're probably being called everywhere to do everything, and you're growing like crazy. But then that creates a big degree of chaos that I don't think people that have not been in a growing business can't totally appreciate and understand, because everybody's like, well, business is up, you're making more money. It's like, well, yeah, but at what cost? Like there's
you needed to make a lot of money because of all the slippage, all the money covers up a lot of sins.
Yeah. How long did that last? That was 2007 to what, like 13?
So there were some ups and downs until about 2015. In between like that 2007 to 15, it was just crazy. But there were a couple up and downs. After 15, it took a pretty good dive. Yep. So right now in the Bakken, there's probably about 35 rigs drilling, and it's been holding pretty steady at that number, plus or minus a few.
Yeah.
But I think peak. Oh man, I used to know this number, but like around 200 rigs.
Wow.
Were drilling, and
that
so
is wild.
They were punching a hole every about 3 to 4 weeks. So that rig at that time was moving every 3 to 4 weeks. So like you just stay ahead of the rigs.
It's building pads. Interesting. So you'd build roads, pads. You'd build wherever they're going to next.
Yep.
You'd prepare the land. They'd come in, and they would just tell you where to go.
Yep.
Interesting. Would you just drive your equipment there? You wouldn't even need to transport stuff, would you?
So yeah, the scrapers that back in the day, we used to be able to road them just about everywhere.
Yeah.
It's getting tougher now, where we got to haul them more.
Yeah, especially when it like this time of year when everything's
in the spring load restrictions, it gets really tough, expensive.
I'm sure. Yeah. Yeah, it's and these like the drilling, it got a lot more advanced. Like
yes.
The drilling they do with fracking's pretty incredible. It's pretty mind-boggling what they're doing, how far under the ground they're going, and then they're not just what is it like? It's like 10,000 feet.
About 10,000 feet they'll go down, and then they hit the curve, and then they'll draw out. Yep, another 10,000 feet. But they're even starting to go out, 15,000 feet. And they're drilling these wells. Geez, like 10 days or something like that. I mean, it's crazy.
Wow.
I remember when Marathon drilled a well in under 30 days, and they were just ecstatic. And now, they're 10 odd days they're drilling them in. And
you're not just building the pads at this point, but you're serving the oil companies in all different ways.
All the maintenance work,
Yeah.
that goes along with it.
Yeah. That must have been crazy. I honestly wish I could have seen it.
It was like, prior to that, we'd buy a piece of equipment and you got to know the piece of equipment, in and out. We were buying stuff so fast, like that you'd forget about it.
I'm sure. Oh, I'm sure you'd just blew stuff all over. Yeah.
Yeah, we went, from, we had about 8 scrapers prior, to just under 50.
Really?
Yeah.
Holy 50 scrapers.
Yep.
Well, these like 627s?
627s, 31s, and 37s.
Wow. So it was all scraper work.
Yep.
For the pads? Interesting.
Yeah.
Because everything's pretty flat already, isn't it?
Well, no, there's some pretty good topography in North Dakota. I mean, you can have pads that you'll move a couple 100,000 yards of dirt on.
Is that right?
That's on the extreme side.
Yeah.
But you'll have to come out there. I'll take you for a drive someday.
I would like to see it. No, I the whole oil thing's, I think, fascinating. I couldn't be more. I live in civil construction and infrastructure, but I love commodities. I love oil. I just love how the world works. And oil, I don't think it's very demonized right now, but it's how the world works. It's so silly to sit here and criticize it because we all depend on it in 1,000 different ways right now.
It's more than gas and diesel.
It's way beyond that. Like, we live in an oil world. That's how the whole world around us works. And fracking as well is, fracking is really why the United States economy has done as well as it has over the past 2 decades.
Hugely impactful.
Yeah, I like, it doesn't get nearly enough credit. And honestly, if we want to bring manufacturing back to the States, like, fracking is a big part of that. Gas is a big part of that. Natural gas. Like, our power has been dramatically changed just because of the availability of gas now. All because of fracking. Like, we almost overnight become the world's top producer of oil and gas. And decades ago, there were conversations where, like, we have no more oil. We're going to have to buy it all from the Middle East. And it's like, now we're sitting here still number 1 in the world because of the Bakken, because of in Texas, because of, like, Marcellus in Pennsylvania. Like, these few regions in the United States are so rich and producing so much that it's propped up our entire economy.
And what they're extracting right now, I believe it's only in the single digits that they're able to retrieve. Yeah. So as technology, gets better, that's going to increase. Right now North Dakota, I think, is doing about 1.1 million barrels of oil a day.
Wow. Just in North Dakota.
Yep.
It's so crazy. Yeah, and then the floor falls out from, so it ramps way up and gets crazy. And then the tap just gets shut off in the mid 2010s. And then it probably, for you guys, goes in the other direction.
As far as work?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, that's one of the things about, I'm a big diversity guy of doing lots of work. We're not just in the oil field, we're doing road and highway work, power plant work, oil field work. And that flattens out those peaks and valleys a ton. So, like you asked me earlier, percentage of oil field work versus construction work, it varies so much every year.
Yeah. It's the oil field work's interesting too, because when it's good, it's really good. And then it can just turn off.
Yes.
Overnight. Like, they can just because that's why they love contractors, and that's why they don't own stuff, is because they can just, like, I mean, maybe not even a phone call, maybe even like an email, or maybe not even that.
The phone just quits ringing.
Yeah, it's probably nothing. Yeah, it's just, but because you can look on the news and see where the price of oil's at, and like, so it happened mid 2010s, and then again in 2020, the floor just fell out from underneath the oil industry because everybody thought the whole world was going to be, demand was done for a long time. And then, well, it turns out, no, people still need oil even when they're at home, and price goes back up. And then now it's starting to fall again.
Yep.
It seems, it's just up, down, up, down. I first saw it. We were working with a contractor that rented equipment in West Texas in 2018, maybe 2019. So it was when oil was good. Like, it was really good, I feel like, at that point.
What year was that? 18?
18, 19.
Yeah.
Yeah, before COVID. And we were in West Texas. I had never really been to I'd driven through West Texas, but when you drive through it, you don't think twice about it. But just we drove around for days, and you'd drive around for 12 hours and on just dirt roads. You'd just be out in the middle of these oil fields like Exxon and these big companies, and you'd see the rigs out in the distance, and they were working for contractors building pads. So they'd be renting like D8s to contractors building these pads out in the middle of the desert. And it was just one of the craziest things I've still ever seen. Like, you'd be at the gas station at 3:30 in the morning, and it is slammed with 23-year-olds, F450s, welders on the back of them all, like just like a line for every pump, F450, F450, F4, like, and Rams and Chevys and like all these just big fancy trucks, and just a bunch of kids.
Yep.
And you're just like, and you're out in the middle of nowhere. Like, what is this? What is going on?
Absolutely crazy.
It's just gangbusters.
Yep.
Yeah. And they were like, hey, we're gonna one day, like, we're gonna meet. We're just gonna have lunch at the Ford dealership. Just meet us at the Ford dealership in Midland. I'm like, what are you talking about? Ford dealership? Like, what's there? And you go to the Ford dealership in Midland, and it's like a country club. You're like, what is this? And they have this whole restaurant at the Ford dealership. It's like, oh, of course. Like, I'm in Midland.
Yep.
Ford's doing just fine in Midland, Texas. But it was just very eye-opening. Like, oh, here's how the world works. Like, this patch of land, this dusty patch of land in the middle of nowhere that everybody in a city has never thought twice about, is like the grease for all the gears for all of society, whether people know it or not. And to me, I just think that's the coolest thing.
You want to see something interesting? Go on to Google Earth and look at all the dotted that is out there in West Texas of all the pads.
It's crazy.
It's absolutely crazy.
Well, or flying into Midland at night with all the flares. It looks like a city. It looks, if you don't know what you're looking at and you're high up enough, I thought it was a city at first. I was like, where are we? We're flying into Midland. There's not a whole lot out here. And then as you start to get lower, you start to realize, like, wait a minute, those are all the flares. Like, those are all wells. and it seems like it goes forever. Just the scale of it. It's like, man, they've poked that many holes into the earth, and each one of those is producing something, or has produced something.
Yep.
It's pretty incredible. So you guys do a little bit of everything. Have you always done a little bit of everything since beginning of time?
Well, and that's kind of what I was telling you, when my dad and uncle started, it was, doing soil conservation work, dams, dugouts, things like that. And then as demands, needs, we started doing more, the oil field, starting doing road and highway work, doing work in the power plants.
The power plants, when did they build the first one?
Boy.
Because that was a big deal.
Yeah, so the very first one probably was built back in the 50s, but that's out. Really got busy, I would say, in the late 60s until the early 80s. There was power plant construction that was going on.
Like I know the one in Beulah was a really big deal. I know Ames had a big part of that.
So Ames did the work on Antelope Valley, and then also for Great River Energy there at Washburn.
Yeah.
They did those two sites.
And it's not just power, they have gasification too, don't they?
So there's Dakota Gas, where they make synthetic natural gas out of lignite.
Which is fascinating.
And it's not only synthetic natural gas, there's a ton of things that they make out of that. There's fertilizer.
Sure.
They capture the CO2, and that gets pipelined to Canada and injected into oil wells up there for enhanced oil recovery.
Really?
Yep.
CO2 for enhanced oil recovery?
Yeah, squeezing the oil out of the ground.
Because you're building pressure?
Yep.
What? Wow.
Yeah. And so when we were talking about technology and in the Bakken and only retrieving a small percentage, there's talk of doing enhanced oil recovery there, and one of them is doing CO2 injection.
That's incredible. Yeah, can you explain fracking for people that don't understand fracking?
Well, when you're going into the formation, it's rock. Like, it's like concrete.
Yeah.
So, like, you could hold it in your hand and you don't even get dirty. So, they drill that through the formation, and then they set off charges to fracture the rock, and then they pump a fluid mixture down there with sand, and then the sand holds those cracks open so that oil can be extracted out of them. Yeah, that's kind of the layman's. I mean, I'm not involved with that a bunch, but that's what my understanding is. Yeah,
there's a lot of science to it, but you're like, traditionally your drilling was far above the shale. Because traditionally speaking, they didn't know how to get anything out of the shale.
Correct.
Like, it was just rock, and you didn't even have the technology to drill the 10,000 feet. Because that alone.
Yeah. And they knew they were drilling through it, and they knew that the Bakken was there.
Yeah.
But they just thought it was an unproducible formation. So the other formations that they were going into, they were able to extract the oil much easier.
I see. Yeah. But the oil and gas is within the rock, and the rock it's rock. Like, it's not like a sponge. Like, it's
it's
straight up rock.
Yep.
Then and then you drill, down, and then a few miles out, and you can then fracture it all along that formation. And now, I guess it's just a lot more cost effective because you can fracture this whole area and extract the gas and oil. And this, I'm just explaining for people that don't, from just one hole poked in the surface. Now you have this recovery from 2 to 3 miles out from that hole. And you can go in different directions.
Yes.
From that one hole.
When this all started, there was typically just one hole on a pad. Well, now, on the high end, you can have maybe upwards of 30 wells on one pad.
In all different directions.
Wow. I would say that maybe a half a dozen is probably pretty common. So now we're building a pad that's going to have 6 wells on it. So we're building 1/6, of what we were before. So now the drilling rig will sit there, punch them holes, and then the rig will actually walk, or they skid it from hole to hole.
Interesting. So, but all in the same pad.
All in the same pad. So it's become way more efficient. Drilling one, or you're building one pad. Yeah. Now that rig stays there. Instead of having to completely tear it down and take it to the next job, you just move it maybe however many times.
That's amazing.
Yep.
The pads, are you building to a design, or is it like we just need it flat?
Nope. They give you a design.
So it's all designed by engineering.
Yep.
It's like you're building a parking lot.
Correct. Yep.
Huh. So you can do all that with GPS and everything.
Yep.
But it's kind of just a rectangle?
Basically just a flat rectangle. You got a few percent on it for drainage.
Yeah.
But there's not a lot to building oil field pads.
Sure. And then the road infrastructure.
Yep.
But it's just dirt? Do you have to put subgrade or like rock or anything down on it?
Yeah, so we got what you call scoria. It's the red rock.
Yeah.
So that's what we surface it with, that or with gravel. And then a lot of locations, they'll cement treat it, depending on soil conditions.
Okay. That makes a lot of sense. Yeah, the cement treatment. That's now standard everywhere. Like, even 5 years ago, when I first started out, I would only see it in like South Carolina, where it's just a swamp. And now it's everywhere, just for time.
Seeing more and more of it.
Yeah, it's everywhere. Yeah, even in places where you're like, they don't really need it, but they just want it faster. They want a piece of land faster to develop, especially like the. Do you guys have any data center stuff where you are yet?
Starting to see some. Yeah. Hasn't really taken off, but I believe that it's going to get crazy.
I'm sure, especially with the power plants up there.
Yep.
And the cold.
Yep. Yeah, because we got affordable electricity.
Yep.
And it's cool out. And as a matter of fact, Basin Electric is getting ready to build a new power plant that's going to be somewhere around 1,500 megawatts, gas-fired,
gas.
just outside of Williston.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow. That's a big deal.
Yeah. It's going to be a several billion-dollar project.
That's a huge project.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I know they've tried to sunset the other plants, but it keeps getting pushed back because they're like, hey, this is way too big of a deal here.
Yep. One of the plants did get shut down a few years ago, and another one of the big ones that's over at Falkirk mine, that plant was going to get shut down.
They tried to, yeah.
And then
they kicked the can down the road.
Then a Great River Energy that owned it prior then sold it to a company called Rainbow Energy.
That's right.
And so now Rainbow, which is a local North Dakota company, owns it.
Interesting.
So yeah, they came in and saved it.
Yeah, because the plant's just fine.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's not that old of a plant in the grand scheme of things.
No, it was built in the, earlier 80s it went online.
Yeah. And then the mine can go forever.
Yeah.
The amount of coal they have up there is, like, a lot of North Dakota is just sitting on coal.
Yeah, so I seen a stat that we have like 800 years of coal,
yeah.
Wyoming at the current rate.
Yeah. Yeah, I went out to a coal mine in Australia, and they have about 1,000 years of coal there, but yet they're shutting the plant down within the next year or two. At least they say they are. But when I was there, you can see it's pretty cool. They've shown me North Dakota as well. I feel like when we were up there, I don't know what his name was. He's the manager of Coyote Creek.
Oh, it was Brendan Brinkman.
Brendan, yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. So we went to like the local Beulah restaurant. I mean, there's one.
Yep. I've eaten there.
Yeah. They're like, you don't choose where you're eating for dinner. You go, or they have a Dairy Queen too, I think.
There's a couple there, but you went. I think it's Country Kittle on Main Street.
Yeah, it's that's exactly where we were. And I remember he showed us on his. You can pull up the power generation for North Dakota and for surrounding states on your phone. Like, they have these dashboards that I didn't know existed until then. But you can see exactly what percentage of the state's power is coming from different energy sources at any given time. And it's quite interesting because, those power plants are very valuable. They're producing a ton of power for quite a few states. Not just North Dakota, but
a lot of it goes into Minnesota.
Twin Cities, yeah. And when we were at this power plant in Australia, we pulled it up. It was a cloudy day, and it was like 80% of the state's power was coming from this power plant. It's a really big plant. I mean, they produce, it's like 15 million tons of coal a year all into this plant. So it's like pretty good size. But you just look at it, you're like, and they're shutting it down when? A few years from now?
What's replacing it?
And they're getting 80% of their power. I'm like, how? I'm not that smart, but like, how does that math? Like, how does that work? And the answer is it doesn't. So they keep prolonging it, which I think is good for everybody.
Yeah. Well, and there was a nuclear plant that was in Minnesota that was on the docket to get shut down, and they kept kicking the can.
Yep.
And in the last year or so, they made an announcement that they're not going to shut it down, that they're going to keep it operating because they realize that there's no backup.
Yeah, wait a minute. Yeah, we actually need this power. Do you guys have a lot of wind in North Dakota?
We do. And there's more and more wind coming all the time.
Have you done some of that work?
Not really. No, we've bid some projects.
Yeah.
But we haven't done any of that.
Because it's kind of similar to building pads.
Yep.
It's very similar. You're just building a rectangle. They're building a square.
Yep, and building a trail to get to it.
Yeah. But is it typically bigger? Like, some of the bigger developers do their own work.
Wanzik is really big in North Dakota.
Yeah. Blattner. Mortenson's next door too.
Yep.
Yeah.
And we've quoted projects for them, but haven't been successful on any of that.
They like to self-perform a lot of stuff.
Self-perform, but they do contract out some of that as well.
Do they? Yeah, I would think North Dakota is a good place for wind turbines.
Yeah.
There's a lot of nothing.
I'm kind of a coal guy.
I believe it. Yeah. I'm just pro energy. I feel like we need more and more energy. The United States does, and the more we can get, just the more energy we can get in the more places, I think the better off we are. And so I don't necessarily have a problem with the wind generation, but to think it's just, I don't like the black and white. I don't like you're either team fossil fuel or team renewable. Like you can't be in the middle. You got to pick a team. It's like, well, I don't know. I think there's a conversation for both. Like I think both have their place. I think they're both great for different things. And the more we have, I think the better off we are as a country.
Yeah. And wind does have its place and it's good. But when you look at like coal is very inexpensive.
Yeah, and it's base load.
And it
you can't
employs a ton of people compared to wind.
Sure.
So good paying jobs. And like you talk about Beulah, if it wasn't for coal, there'd be nothing in that town.
No. And when you say good paying jobs, they're good paying jobs.
Yeah. Great benefits. So, like that plant that they were talking about shutting down, I think that coal mine has, several hundred people. The power plant probably has several hundred. So maybe 500 people, give or take, would have, been out of a great paying job. That would have had a big impact on all those small communities, Bismarck, Minot.
Well, and all the businesses supporting the mines and power plants as well.
Yep.
Like you've got 500 direct employment, but indirect is thousands of people serving these plants. And I'm telling you, like I don't know what North American coal is putting in their water, but they are the nicest people in the world there.
They are great people. Matter of fact, I was at Dakota here a couple weeks ago visiting with the guys, and they're good people.
Yeah.
Over at Coyote Creek, we built that road from the crusher house to the mine.
Okay.
It's been over 10 years. I think it was about a 7-mile haul road that we built for them when they opened up that plant.
So is that what the Cress coal haulers use?
Yep.
To get back and forth?
Yep.
I see. Okay.
So they contracted that out.
Did you use ash to stabilize it?
Nope.
Because
Just a bunch of gravel.
Just a bunch of rocks. Because I know they use ash out there.
Yep.
For some of their haul roads to stiffen it up, and then they reclaim it. But they said it works great.
Oh yeah, it is.
Turns it like to concrete.
Yep. No, you see ash going into a lot of that, and then see ash getting mixed in with concrete as well.
Yep.
It makes it stronger.
Yeah, fly ash. Well, and actually that's a problem because I feel like they're now having to import fly ash, I think is what's going on.
That could be. I'm not familiar with it, but one of the power plants pretty much sells 100% of their ash that goes into concrete.
Yeah.
And then some of the other power plants sell their ash. It goes into the oil field. And when I was talking about when they're drilling the wells and they're displacing the well bore, they mix fly ash with the cuttings to stabilize it to haul to the landfills.
So it's not just runny soup.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's good. No, I feel like I was reading somewhere that, because they've shut down so many plants, they don't have enough fly ash for concrete now.
And maybe in other parts of the country.
Yeah, in other parts of the country, you guys have all the fly ash you need, but it was like Chicago or something like that, like something in the middle where they're having to import it now from other countries. Because
that's crazy.
Yeah, it's just the second and third order consequences of decision making. It's like you make this decision here and then, that's my problem with some of those decisions. It's like it's very, in a lot of ways, short-sighted.
With the consequences.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, like it's really spooky. Europe, I think, is a great example of what not to do. Like Germany, perfect example of what not to do because they got out ahead of their skis and they decommissioned way too much of their coal-fired power plants and then the whole pickle with Ukraine, Nord Stream, et cetera, with their gas supply. And now it's like, and they got rid of nuclear. So now what? And now what is some of the most expensive power in the world? And now what is the inability to manufacture?
I was just going to say that, I didn't realize and appreciate it until we went to Caterpillar and went to the foundry. Mm-hmm. And during peak loads, like they'll shut the foundry down.
Too expensive.
Yeah, too expensive, Mm-hmm. So they run it at night during less demand.
Because it's electric arc.
Yep.
Yeah. They're building some of those plants. same with data centers. Like they're building these data centers where they can get cheap power, but that's the very confusing thing about data centers is they are the most power hungry things we've ever built as a human race. And you have the same people saying they're speaking out of both sides of their mouths. Like we need less fossil fuels, but we need more data centers. And it's like, well, hey, how are you're just going to put little mini nuclear reactors everywhere? Like, I don't know if that's the best way to go either. I'm not really sold on that. And maybe you have some top secret way to produce power you haven't shared with the world yet that you've developed underground.
I'd be on an island right now.
Yeah. I don't know. Maybe they have it, but it's like these things are power hungry. In some states, like that's why it's coming to a place like North Dakota. Some states have said no more. We don't have the power for more data centers. We would love to take your money, but we can't accommodate another data center. We don't have the power, which is crazy.
And I was told that new plant that Basin is putting up, I don't know this factually, but I've been told or heard that by the time it's up and running, that the demand will supersede that.
Yes.
Like,
yeah. Well, so, some they're building small gas plants just for individual data centers as well.
Yep. And we do have some of those in North Dakota, those peak gas-fired turbines.
Because those are nice. You can turn it on and off.
Yep.
Which is the good thing about fossil fuel in general. You can turn it on and off.
Yep. Ramps up and down really quick. And, Mr. Wonderful has been to North Dakota now several times.
Really?
And there's lots of talk of, stuff that's coming.
Sure.
And it's back, because we got electricity, inexpensive. It's cool out there.
Lots of land.
I think in the coming years, you're going to really see that explode in North Dakota.
Well, it's exploding in West Texas right now. Let's go build stuff close to the gas.
Yep.
It's like, yeah, that makes sense to me. It's these data centers too are pretty wild because I know companies I don't totally understand it, and I don't think the people building it totally understand it either. But they're building these data centers, and they're telling them though that they're not like they're doing the site development, they're building the buildings, they're building the infrastructure, but they're not totally sure what's going to go inside of it yet, because what goes inside of it doesn't exist yet.
Huh. Interesting.
So and that's like that's how they explain it during the they admit that they don't know, or some of them are like, well, we're building this, but we know it's going to be obsolete pretty quickly.
Which is crazy.
It's insane. It's really insane. Yeah. There was a contractor in here not too long ago doing data center work, and they were telling me about it. I mean, I feel like I know a lot of contractors doing data center work now because there's data centers on every street corner.
And they can't build them fast enough. I mean, like,
no. Oh, no.
Money is not an object. It's like we need to get up and running yesterday.
I don't know where the money's coming from, though. It's like, oh, yeah, another $7.3 billion data center. Like every time I go on LinkedIn, it's like another multi-billion-dollar data center announced. And it's like, where are these billions coming? Are they just – this is like monopoly money. I mean, like – that power plant back in the day, probably a few $100 million
to build them back in the 80s. Probably. You know what? Yes. I wonder if it wasn't around, give or take, $500 million, because two of the power plants did some major retrofits here in the last decade.
Yeah.
And those projects were around 500, just south of 500 million. And I believe I heard him talking that those retrofits cost as much as the initial project did.
I'm sure.
Decades ago.
And those initial projects, that was like one of the biggest projects ever in this entire region of the United States. And even inflation adjusted, it's like, all right, it's a few billion. But these data center projects are like, and the manufacturing stuff too, like TSMC in Arizona, they said they're spending $150 billion. $150 billion. That's like, what? Where does that money come from? That's a lot of zeros.
Well, you were out there, the project that Ames is doing, I think in South Carolina?
North Carolina.
Yes.
4,000 acre site.
Crazy.
4,000 acres, like 25 million yards. And a lot of it rock. It was like 10 million yards rock or something like that. I mean, they were drilling and shooting a lot of it and crushing a lot of it.
And that's a data center, right?
No, that was automotive.
Oh, I thought that was, okay.
That was Toyota. Yeah. We went to a data center project in Idaho, which was fascinating. It was all rock. So it was all basalt, like really abrasive, nasty stuff. And I feel like the most economical way to do it, because the data center, there's so many utilities underneath it that you need like 15 feet underneath the data center for all of your power, water, duct banks. Like it's like a spaghetti bowl underneath this building. So you need it really nice and clean. And so they're building this project on like a giant rock though. And I think the cheapest way to do it was to import all of the material and to build the pad up so that they would have a nice tidy pad to put all their utilities within and then put the data center on top. But instead, to eliminate truck traffic and import, they over excavated the whole site by like 20 feet. So they drilled, it was a giant, it was like millions of yards. They drilled the whole rectangle, shot the whole rectangle, excavated the whole rectangle, hauled all of the rock to a crushing setup, monster crushing operation, crushed it all to like whatever it was, 3-inch minus or something like that, and then hauled it all back into the hole and then placed it all back up to grade, back to the existing grade, just to make it a nice, clean canvas for the utilities for the data center. And then they would come back through and cut all of their trenches, et cetera, for the utilities.
Interesting.
It's incredible. It was one of the biggest mobile crushing setups I'd ever seen on a site. It was like, because they had to crush millions of yards of material. Like it was like a quarry.
So do you have video of that one?
Yeah.
Do you have it up on YouTube?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to have to go check that one out. I missed that one.
I try to keep things vague. Well, I said it was Idaho, but it's probably done now. It was years ago. It was a pretty cool job. But Ames also, they had do you guys do much crushing?
No, we don't have any crushers. We contract all that out.
Do you deal with WD Skopeniak?
We've quoted some stuff with them. We did a rail project where they provided the material about 10 years ago, but not much.
Okay. Yeah, they're in Minnesota.
Yep.
So quote unquote down the road.
Yeah. No, we see them run around western North Dakota.
Yeah, they've got some big spreads, but that's real common now. These big crushing spreads on these jobs just keep as much material as, because they're starting. That's another thing, is they're building these sites. They're building on very unsuitable sites now, which it's either means it's like a swamp, or it's very hilly with enormous cuts and fills, or it's like a giant rock, and no one's ever wanted to build there. But the economics now.
I was just going to ask, I suppose the land is inexpensive enough that it offsets.
Or the state's like, well, we could just give it to you, just like, because there's all the games politically from a land standpoint. But they're very unsuitable pieces of land. And so just the quantities and then the schedules too. Like it wouldn't be that ridiculous of a project, but it's like, no, we need it. Like the schedule will be 12 months. We want it in 3. So then you just get these crazy, all this stuff that makes no sense. That wouldn't have made sense 5 years ago. That's now almost like standard. And one of those things is these giant mobile crushing spreads on these site development projects.
Yeah, well, it's back to it. Cost is secondary. It's getting it open. They're willing to pay for it, but demanding timelines. But it costs money.
Sure. Where do you guys go now? Like 70% reduction in turnover in 1 year is pretty cool.
Yeah.
Like that's a pretty good feeling. You're starting to ramp up. It's May. Stuff's probably busy now already?
Yep, we're getting busy. Yeah, it's that time of the year.
Yeah. What do you ramp up in April typically?
Usually in April. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. Depending on the weather, we'll dictate a lot of that.
And then you have about till Thanksgiving-ish.
Yep. Exactly.
And it's just blow and go.
Yeah. Hopefully you can work up until Christmas, but it is North Dakota.
Yeah. You don't want to count on it?
Yeah. Most of the road projects have completion dates, in November at the latest.
But what are you thinking about now? I feel like you've built this really nice foundation. Where are you going with this season? What are you focused on beyond the work?
to keep it going. It takes a lot of work,
Sure.
to keep that going. So it's just continue building on what we already have.
How do you do that? What are you specifically working on?
Well, it's things like I said, recognizing people, when we take the food truck out
Yeah.
and, calling people out, like the other day, like I said, I was stopping and bought a bunch of Snickers and stopped and talked to the guys and, just spend a minute with them and tell them thank you. Continue to build on that.
How much time, because you've got businesses to run, et cetera. How much time in a given week are you spending out on site, would you say?
I'd like to spend more. I like to get out at least one day a week.
Yeah. Do you have to schedule that?
No. Usually I try to do is kind of, block a day out and make sure that I don't have nothing going on so that I don't have to hurry back for something.
Yeah. Yeah. Which then allows you to get to probably a few sites.
Yep.
Because some of them are probably a little bit of a drive.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I mean, if we're working up in Williston, you can have a 2-3 hour drive.
Yeah, because it's not like you've got these big, beautiful interstates everywhere you need to go. There's some smaller roads.
Yeah.
It's the food truck. How does that work?
So we used to take just an enclosed trailer and throw the grill and the coolers in it. And I'm like, I really want a food truck. And so went down and talked to one of the trailer dealers, and he had one.
Wow.
I'm like, all right. So we ended up buying it, and we take it out, do community events. We take it to the jobs. We try to hit every job, and then when we go to the job, we feed our guys, and then whoever we're working for, we invite them to come. Maybe if it's a road.
Really?
So we invite the engineers. If it's a county job, we invite the guys from the county. If we're dealing with adjacent landowners, we invite the landowners to come.
Wow.
And just.
And it's like a proper food truck.
Yep. Yeah. If you go on our website,
I didn't know this was a thing.
Yeah, there's some pretty good pictures of it on there. And we drag it around, and then we do other community events. Last week we had it at the CTE Center.
Sure.
And they did a career fair. So we took 1,000 hot dogs and we did 900 hot dogs.
Wow.
And fed the kids.
Yeah. Who cooks? Who does the cooking?
Sean, our safety guy.
Really?
Yep. Yeah, he loves it.
Really?
So, and I try to go out every time when the food truck goes out myself, and spend time with the guys or with the community. Another event that we do is Trick or Trunk. So downtown Dickinson, they block off several streets.
Yeah.
And businesses will set up and hand out candy for the kids. And I'm like, we can do better than that.
Sure.
Let's take the food truck. And we do 1,000 hot dogs in 2 hours. It's chaos, but I love it. And the thing there is it's something different.
Okay.
Now it makes us more memorable. It's like, all right, we didn't just give you a candy bar, you got a hot dog.
So it's branded Baranko?
Yep.
Like the food truck?
Yeah.
Wow.
And and it doesn't matter who it is. It's not just the kids, mom, dad, grandpa, grandma, whoever comes along, we do hot dogs, and then we get a bunch of the guys that come help. You're talking about culture before and stuff. I know we got a good culture when the guys bring their wives and kids to help. So we got some of the wives that come and help. We got some of the kids that show up and help, because it takes a lot of people to do 1,000 hot dogs in 2 hours.
I bet.
It's one hot dog like every 8 seconds.
Wow. And you just buy all the hot dogs?
Yeah.
So no one's paying for this.
No one's
stuff.
paying. Yeah. So we're not a food truck where we can do retail. It's all giveaway. So we're going to do Touch a Truck here. I don't know when this is going to post, but in a couple weeks.
Yeah.
So we'll take a piece of equipment down, let the kids check that out, and then we have the food truck set up there too, where the kids get a hot dog, and we go do different industry like golf events. We'll set up on one of the holes. And so one of the fun things we do is for the API, it's a petroleum institute. We do Chicago dogs.
Wow.
And so now we've gotten famous for doing Chicago dogs, and guys look forward to getting them.
Getting advanced.
Yep.
How often do you take the food truck to job sites?
I just heard the number last year we did, and I think we did just shy of 30 events last year.
That's a lot.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
It
was well into the 20s.
At least once a week.
Yep. Yeah. And different things. So like we did one last year, and we'll probably do it again. They asked us, somebody we knew, they were having a suicide walk, recognition walk. And so their food truck canceled on them last minute. And they called me up. They're like, hey, could you come do this here? I'm like, absolutely.
Wow.
So we went and set up at one of the parks in Dickinson. And
do you just have like a food truck line item on your budget now?
Yep. We used to not.
Yeah.
And our CFO Allison was like, we should probably come up with a budget for this.
Yeah, I'm sure.
So then
giving away thousands of hot dogs, that adds up.
Well, we don't only do hot dogs, like we do like a lot of fun stuff, so we do the Chicago dogs. When we do that golf tournament, we do biscuits and gravy and bacon, because the guys were probably out last night or the night before, so some biscuits and gravy.
That is
helps. We do a lot of cool stuff instead of just hot dogs or hamburgers.
That's fun though.
It's so much blast. Fun. Like everybody loves it.
I that's the kind of stuff I don't understand why it's not more common, because it's somewhat simple. Like, it's not that complicated. Everybody loves it. It's different.
Yep.
Why not? Like, the goodwill you get from that is incredible with your team, but then with the community.
Yeah,
like
exactly.
Being able to build all the goodwill with the community is huge.
And so then when we take the food truck out, we don't do it at the touch truck. Well, we do it at the touch truck. It's the trick or trunk, but we do T-shirts. I don't know how many thousand T-shirts we gave out last year, but we do a new shirt every year. So it'd be like 2025 food truck tour.
Sure.
And then we have somebody do up a logo and give away a bunch of branded shirts.
That's great. People love free shirts, hats. People love free food.
Yep.
If you give them free food, they will flock, and to the tune of thousands of people requesting hot dogs.
Yeah. So, I mean, I don't know how many thousands and thousands of shirts that we've given away over the years.
That's amazing. Wow. So there's a lot of people. Will you see them around?
Oh, yeah.
It's not that big. So when you're at the grocery store or something?
Yeah, we do it at the grocery store, at the gym. My daughter was in class one day, and she's like, hey, there's a guy wearing a Bronco, and she's in another town going to college.
That's pretty cool. Do you give your people Baranko stuff, like apparel and all that?
Yep, we do. So, we give out different swag, all the time. We have a company store online where they can go, and then they get credits to use to purchase stuff. So,
okay. How do they get the credits?
So,
with time, like every year?
Yep, yeah, with time, and every year you get so many dollars.
Okay, but they get to go select
whatever they want.
Interesting. How do you run the store?
So it's all online. So it's within a local shop, and they built it all for us and did everything, and then we just attached it to our website. So
that's amazing. And so then you go out on job sites, and everybody's wearing different what they want.
Exactly.
But still company branded.
Yep.
Interesting.
Yeah. So if you want a really nice, Ariat something, yep, you can do that. Or you want a less expensive, no name brand, you can buy stuff.
Sure. But I think the ability to choose, I think, takes it a lot further. And it's like they're the ones that are wearing it to work. And people are pretty particular with what they work in for good reason, because you're working in it. Mm-hmm. And especially when it's cold. You want, that's when apparel really becomes important. You want really good stuff, but you want it to be what you want.
Mm-hmm. And even if it's your street clothes, that's, if you want a nice polo, back to it, we like certain stuff, the way it feels, and we let them pick that out, what they like.
Sure. It's all simple stuff.
Yeah.
It's not that complicated.
Yeah, and it goes a long way.
It goes a long way.
And it's a great feeling when you're out in the community and you see your gear being worn.
Yeah, but a lot of people have a negative attitude about that. Like, well, if we get the company shirts or company sweatshirts or whatever, they're just going to leave and go to the next guy, and then they're going to take it with, we spent all this money on it. It's like, wait, hey. That's actually, but now your brand is out in the community. Like, don't you want that? Don't you want to give them a great sweatshirt that they want to wear regardless? Because if they stay with you, now they're wearing it outside of work. And so anywhere they go, they're representing your business, which is advertisement, is brand recognition, etc. And even if they leave, ideally they're still wearing the sweatshirt because it's comfortable, because it's nice, which is still advertisement brand recognition.
Yeah. Even if they take it to Goodwill and give it away because they don't want it anymore. Well, somebody's got it now.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah. You touched on it before we wrap up. The CTE program, when I was out there last time, you took me around that whole program, which, again, this is a small North Dakota town, not something you would expect in a small North Dakota town, but it's a remarkable program. Huge facility.
Yeah, it's great. Like, we spend a lot of time interacting with the kids there. So
yeah,
the school system was really fortunate. It was an old Halliburton complex, and when Halliburton left, the state or the city bought it from them and got a smoking deal on it. Took a lot of money to get it up and running, but still a fraction of the cost what it would have cost otherwise. So there's stuff in there from all the trades, but there's culinary arts they have there. They have a podcast studio there as well. Just a ton of good stuff happening, and we got involved with them. So where the simulator room is at, that's the Baranko simulator room, and then outside they have what they call the sandbox, and that's the Baranko sandbox. So they got mini excavators, mini loaders, different equipment that the kids can get out and play with.
And the simulators, did you donate those to them?
Yeah, so we donated a block of money that they use for the simulators.
Okay.
Yeah, for a bunch of stuff there.
Yeah, when I went with you, I don't think the sandbox was there yet. I think they were still figuring it out, but it's kind of in the middle.
Exactly.
It's like surrounded by concrete.
Yep.
Yeah, that's a great spot for it.
Oh, and so then the manufacturers, RDO, Butler, Titan Machinery. I'm probably missing some here, but
sure.
They've all donated equipment to the school.
And these are high school kids?
Yep.
So they're high school kids. They go to this program after school?
Nope, it's part of it's accredited. So it's, part of their everyday program. Really? So, I love spending time with them. Yeah. It's just great. So every spring we take the kids bowling and spend a couple hours with the kids, do pizza, but we invite mom and dad to come. So we get some of the parents that come with as well. And we get to talk with the parents. We get to talk with them about our tuition reimbursement program that we have, other opportunities that are out there for money that the state has that can help them if they want to go on to school.
Sure. And they, as part of this program, they get to run the machines.
Yep.
Wow. That's pretty legit for
high
school.
And so back to like the culinary, they have a chef there.
That's incredible. I do remember that now that you're saying that. Yeah, and they they can cook for people.
Yep.
Yeah.
And so we interact. Like I said, we were down there last week for the career fair.
Yeah.
Friday.
I saw it on social media.
Yep. Yeah. So then this Friday, we invite the kids out to one of our projects.
Really?
So they load up the bus. They bring the kids out. We bring the food truck out, feed the kids. Kids get to interact with our guys, walk around the equipment. Our guys will, walk around, talk to the kids about what they're doing, what they're running, and then we'll load them up on the bus, and we'll start at the end of the project where nothing has happened yet, and then go through the project and show them the progression of it to the finished portion of it.
Is it road work or something like
that?
Yeah, that's perfect.
So in another way, we get to interact with these kids and already seeing a positive impact with labor. In another 5 years, it's going to be definitely have a big impact. We got
Huge.
Several of the kids working for us now.
Really?
And a couple that have come out of the program.
That's incredible. That's really cool.
Yeah. And it's about building, these, how you want to say, planting our next generation.
Yeah. Yeah. And even if they don't come in, like, I feel like engaging with the community like that is so positive.
Oh, yeah.
That's a really big deal. The tuition program, how does that work?
So with us, we do $20,000 of tuition with a 4-year commitment.
Interesting.
Yep. And then the state of North Dakota right now has got, I believe it's $16,500 that if you go into a program that's high demand, so like diesel, welding, electricians, stuff like that,
Yeah.
where the state will give this money to the kids. Plus, then with all the other scholarships that are out there, and
Wow. So they could go. You'll put $20,000 towards a diesel program or whatever it is.
yep,
And state will kick in as well.
Yep.
You'll help them with that. And then they just have to commit 4 years to then working at the company.
yep. And so then back to having a good culture, we want them to stay forever,
Sure.
But now we got 4 years to show them who we are.
Yeah. That's quite good too.
Yeah.
You guys are really doing some cool stuff.
Yeah. Thank you. I appreciate that.
Oh, it's super cool. It's that's really why I wanted to have you on. Like, because you're not in Ames. You don't have thousands of people. You don't have I feel like people, they always dismiss this kind of stuff. Well, like, that's just big contractors can do that. Like, we can't do that. And it's like, not to say you guys aren't a small contractor, but again, you're not this coast to coast construction brand that's been around for, since the 1800s. And it's just like, it's a cop out. I hear it from other people. Like, we can't do that because we're not big enough, or we're in a small town, or whatever it is. Like, that's just it doesn't work for our market.
You can't not do it.
I agree.
And how many times you go to college career fairs and come home empty-handed? You need to get to them when they're young.
Yeah.
And set the hook.
Yeah.
And then send them off to college and have them come back. And it's not only, you don't have to go to college.
Sure.
It's just one of the things that we will help with.
No, I see you guys at events all the time. Like, social media's been great. So, I was telling you,
Yeah.
whoever's running your marketing is doing a great job.
No, she does an amazing job on it. And then because after listening to you, I've been posting on LinkedIn.
Yeah, and I see your stuff. Yes, that's right too. Yeah, so I'm not just seeing it from the company. I'm seeing your stuff, which is super helpful as well. But it seems like you guys are everywhere. Yeah. Like, every time I go on LinkedIn, you guys are somewhere doing something. It's like, how many community events are there in Dickinson, North Dakota?
Well, and a big part of it we were talking about earlier. You got to sell yourself. People are interviewing you before they ever come to the door. So they want to see what you're all about. And how you talk about, like, LinkedIn, they want to see Glenn. What's Glenn about?
Sure.
They go to Facebook or Instagram. They want to see the company pictures. What are you guys doing out there? So focusing not always on your new shiny piece of equipment, but focusing on the guys.
Yeah. And you don't have to talk all about Glenn. Like, oh, I'm great. I'm like, none of your stuff is about you at all.
Yeah.
I don't think I've seen a single thing about you. It's all just what you're doing, or this program, or this piece of equipment, or this event, so on and so forth, which is, I think, and it's fun too. People, the social media thing, they're like, well, I don't want to self-promote, or it's a chore, this and that. It's like, it shouldn't be. One, it shouldn't be self-promotion. That's not the right way to do it. Two, it shouldn't be a chore. It should be fun. Like, it's just you giving other people credit. That's all there is to it. It's really not that complicated. And it's fun for you to give other people credit. It's fun for other people to get the credit. There you go.
Recognition.
Yeah. It's just another form of recognition that's free. It doesn't cost anything to post on LinkedIn. And there's so few people doing it that it goes really far when you do, which I think is great as well.
Yeah. No, and that's back to, your credit, listening to you and all the other guys here, about the importance of posting. So, I've set a goal of posting once a week.
Really? How long have you been doing that now?
Probably about 6 months.
Yeah, and you've been very consistent. Like I said, I feel like I see your stuff all the time.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yep. And then, Susan, our marketing lady, she's posting stuff all the time. Yep. You're asking about stuff that we're doing. Like, now we're doing a company newsletter.
Nice.
And one of the things that we're getting feedback from the guys is they want more information on what's going on.
Yeah.
The why.
Yeah.
So we, got the company newsletter, talk about jobs we have. We try to spotlight an employee, just a bunch of good stuff to put out there. We were talking earlier about things that we're doing, getting the foremen and the superintendents, telling the guys the why.
Sure.
Goes a long ways.
Yeah. Well, and something like the newsletter, I think, goes along, and social media too, but it goes a long way with families. Like, especially if you're sending it to the home.
Mm-hmm.
Like I feel like the families, the spouses especially, they want to know what's going on. Like their spouses, you know, you're at work more than you're at home with your family. So what are you doing? And I think people are just curious. And traditionally, at a traditional company, you have no idea what's going on within the company. Other projects, you have no idea what's going on in your project because you can't really take pictures or whatever it is. Like I just got a message yesterday I saw from some guy. He signed up with this big company, and first thing you do is sign a non-disclosure agreement, and it's just like kind of threatening you. If you take photos, you're going to be fired because it's confidential information on projects. And I understand some things are confidential. Most everything isn't though. And that's like the standard. Just don't talk about what you do. And then, it's hard to build pride with the workforce when you can't talk about what you do. And then their family has not a clue what the heck's going on. Like with our videos, that's the coolest thing I hear is I can share this with my family to show them what I do, which is and sometimes these are old guys. Like these are guys that have been in the industry for 30 years that have never been able to share with their families what it is that they do.
Well, these people take a lot of pride in what they're doing. I mean, every one of us loves driving through a project that we built.
Yeah.
And looking at that and having the memories of, oh, I remember when this happened or that happened or whatever it was, you know, it's kind of a flashback. I mean, I love driving through those projects, and I know the guys do as well, you know, but that way now they can share it with the families.
Yeah. The newsletter thing, I think, is a home run. I think, and now that you say it, we should probably be better at that. Maybe we could do a newsletter. Now you're giving me some ideas. I mean, we publish a lot online, but maybe there's a better way to do it.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I'm very excited. I'm excited for.
I am too. It's nothing but good. Like lots of good things coming.
Yeah. No, I'm like, this is where you guys are after just a few years. So it's like another 5 to 10. This is going to be really neat.
Yep. Well, you know, I want to make it a good place for people to come to work. I want people, when they are driving to work in the morning, they're happy. They're not like, oh crap.
Yeah.
You know, the other thing, you know, is I got a son that's now in the business. So he's been around forever, but he's graduating high school. He's off to college in the fall. Get things set up, you know, so it's on rails or has some good guardrails as he comes into the business.
Sure.
You know, making it a lot easier, having less people problems.
Yeah. I think that's just what takes the fun out of this whole thing. Like and that's what bums me out when I feel like people get into this. You kind of have to love this world to get into it and to be in it for a while, because it's hard. It's really hard. Again, especially in a place up north, like when you're really battling the weather and
half the year you don't work.
Yeah, it's hard. It's a hard way of life. It's so you've got to be all in on it, and it bums me out to see people bummed out with it, because you know they're here because they enjoy it. They love the work. They love making a difference, but they're bummed out because of the people side of things, and they're just exhausted. But again, it doesn't have to be that way. There's a better way to do it, and again, you guys, I think, are a great example of, hey, in just a few years, like it's a few years of hard work. It's a few years of challenging a lot of things from the past, but it takes just a few years to dramatically change some things, like really plug some serious holes from a even just turnover standpoint.
Yep.
Yeah. Sweet.
Yeah. Nope. It's been it's taken a lot of work, but worth every minute, and you know, it'll continue to take work. It's not like it's like you're done. It's like, oh, hey, we're done now. No,
it
you're
only
not.
It takes more work, I would argue, going forward, but it's worthwhile work. Like it's you're happy to do the work because you're seeing the result in others, which I think is a lot of fun.
Yeah. Well, and you know, now we've taken the guys to the summit. We've had somebody to go to every one of your workshops.
Yeah.
You know, and they get to see that stuff. So now you're getting more buy-in, getting to see different views.
Yeah, and that stuff's good for other people, especially people that aren't in traditional leadership positions. Like, I think sending executives to something like the summit or anything like that, it could be another event, is great, and I think that's where companies go first. But I think it's even more powerful when you send people that haven't really thought about leadership yet to something like that.
you promote somebody, but then you don't give them the tools
Yeah.
to do their new job.
Yeah.
And the other thing that like we done when we were talking about culture is you come home and you tell your spouse, hey, I'm going to Texas here for work. It doesn't always go over so well because they think it's just a big party,
Yep.
So we're like, you know what, we're going to take spouses. Yeah. So the guys, go to the workshops or the summit.
Yeah.
And then the wives come along and get to do whatever. So, they get to go to Dallas or they get to go to San Antonio. And I tell you what, the few dollars of airfare that cost goes miles.
Sure.
Yep. And now you're getting everybody to meet each other, the camaraderie. It's just, yeah.
Was it your spouse that hung out with the other spouses last
Yeah.
time?
So
Was
then
that it?
the very first one, unfortunately, I didn't get to go to. I was at another event that I had planned.
Yeah.
But then Jolene went with.
Yeah.
And so then she planned a couple things that they could go during the day. So like they went to the Alamo, they went Segway, and I can't remember what else it was. Yeah, they went out and had fun, and
It's super cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I feel like I saw you guys at the end of the event. Yeah. And you were telling me about that. I was like, that's great.
Yeah. Then one night, we go out for supper as a group and go to a nice steakhouse and have a good meal and
go figure. Awesome. Well, I appreciate you coming down.
Yes, thanks for having me.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing y'all in like work season. Last time it was not work season.
No.
Which is why I was there. But hopefully at some point we can see y'all during work season.
Well, maybe when you come in September we could figure something out.
September would be good, huh? Yeah, it'll still be full bore.
Yep.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. And usually after Labor Day, you are full bore because winter is not far away, so you're trying to get projects done.
Yeah, we'll do something then. And I was gonna go to Coteau or Falkirk as well. See the boys up there. I can't stay away from those mornings. they're just too good. Well, thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you.